Welcome to Dreamy Tales, a place where gentle, relaxing stories will guide you into a deep sleep. On this channel, we'll be sharing soothing stories to help you unwind and forget the worries of the day. If you enjoy these peaceful moments, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you won't miss any of our bedtime tales. Let's create a space of relaxation together each night. Now, before we dive into tonight's story, let's take a few moments to relax your body and mind. Find a comfortable spot to sit or lie down. Gently close your eyes and take a deep breath. Inhale slowly, feeling the fresh air filling your lungs, and slowly exhale, letting the tension in your body gradually melt away. Repeat this 3 more times. With each breath, feel yourself becoming more relaxed and ready to enter the magical world of stories. Now, loosen your shoulders, gently massage your face, and release any remaining tension. Pay attention to any areas in your body that still feel tight, maybe in your neck, back, or legs, and gently let them relax. Next, we'll do a short guided visualization. Imagine yourself in a beautiful garden under the night sky, with the soft moonlight shining down. You can hear the rustling of leaves in the breeze, the sound of water flowing gently in the distance. Feel the cool breeze brushing against your face. Now that your body and mind are relaxed, let's step into tonight's story. But before we begin, remind yourself that you deserve these moments of relaxation, and let go of all worries as you listen to each word. And now, as you are fully relaxed, let's begin our journey into tonight's tale. Allow my words to guide you into a world of dreams and serenity. Relax and listen slowly. The exterior of the quaint kitchen window was adorned with a delicate tapestry of condensation. From her vantage point within the cozy confines of the room, Elodie observed as minuscule water droplets coalesced upon the outer layer of glass, gradually accumulating until their weight compelled them to embark on a slow, meandering descent. The day outside was characterized by a biting chill and a boisterous wind that howled with untamed ferocity. The renowned Maestral, a powerful and capricious wind of the region, was engaged in a vigorous dance through the valleys of Provence, its invisible hands bending the sturdy forms of trees in its relentless path. This formidable gust, though sometimes disruptive, was a familiar presence in this corner of the world, a well-known and thoroughly understood phenomenon. The local inhabitants had long since learned to coexist with its blustery temperament, developing time-honored methods of preparation. Elodie, adhering to the wisdom of generations past, had carefully positioned heavy stones atop her roof, a traditional practice designed to secure the terracotta tiles against the Mistral's forceful gusts. Throughout the village, residents sought refuge within the comforting embrace of their warm homes, finding solace from the wintry onslaught. Even the tiny arachnids, creatures often overlooked, exhibited a remarkable preparedness, instinctively weaving smaller, more sheltered webs in anticipation of the looming cold and the wind's relentless assault. The stark and gray panorama visible through the window served only to amplify the inviting warmth that permeated Elodie's kitchen, transforming it into an even more cherished sanctuary. Her humble cottage, though modest in size, exuded an undeniable charm, its spaces thoughtfully furnished with an abundance of love and care. Within the aged oven, a gentle flame flickered, casting a soft, dancing light and emanating a comforting heat that gradually diffused throughout the entire room, enveloping it in a warm and tender embrace. Elodie was seated at a round, sturdy table, its surface cheerfully adorned with a blue and yellow patterned tablecloth, a vibrant splash of color against the muted tones of the winter day. Her gaze was focused upon a cookbook that lay before her, its cover a cheerful beacon of bright yellow. The simple volume, well-worn and comforting in its familiarity, possessed a satisfying heft, a testament to the countless culinary journeys it had facilitated. With a gentle rustle of pages, she opened the book and carefully navigated through its well-loved sections, until she arrived at the chosen menu for the day. Her culinary aspirations for this wintry afternoon encompassed a trio of comforting dishes: a fragrant leek and potato soup, its creamy texture promising warmth; roasted cauliflower, generously adorned with melted cheese, a study in comforting textures and flavors; and a hearty mutton stew, prepared according to the time-honored traditions of what was affectionately known as the peasant style, a testament to resourceful cooking and the bounty of the land. It was, in her estimation, the quintessential winter meal, each component designed to provide sustenance and warmth, perfectly attuned to the seasonal harvest and the body's natural cravings during the colder months. Elodie mused that while her farming ancestors in Provence would undoubtedly have appreciated the sentiment behind such a meal, they likely would have considered 3 courses an unnecessary indulgence. For them, either the cheesy cauliflower or the mutton stew would have served as a more than sufficient main course following a bowl of the nourishing soup. However, Elodie harbored the delightful intention of savoring both, allowing herself a moment of culinary extravagance in the midst of the winter's chill. Casting another glance at the blustery world outside, the window pane still adorned with glistening droplets, Elodie stretched languidly, inhaling deeply the warm, inviting air that filled her bright and cheerful kitchen. With a renewed sense of purpose, she rose from her chair, her movements deliberate and unhurried. She proceeded to the sink, where she washed her hands thoroughly under the warm running water, then dried them gently on a soft blue towel, its fabric embroidered with cheerful sunflowers, a ubiquitous symbol of the sun-drenched region she called home. Next, she carefully tied on a blue apron, also adorned with the familiar sunflower motif, a practical garment that spoke of her dedication to the culinary arts. With these preparations complete, she turned her attention to the task of assembling the various ingredients required for her ambitious cooking endeavor. The rhythmic opening and closing of cupboard and pantry doors punctuated the quiet of the kitchen as she retrieved the necessary supplies, her movements efficient and practiced. One by one, she meticulously arranged the items on her freshly cleaned countertop, creating a colorful tableau of culinary potential. Before her lay 3 plump leeks, their white bases transitioning into vibrant green stalks; 6 large golden potatoes, their smooth skins hinting at the earthy goodness within, and a burlap sack filled with smaller, equally promising spuds. Alongside these were a medium-sized head of cauliflower, its florets tightly packed, a single bright orange carrot, a collection of a dozen small pearly onions, and another dozen firm, earthy turnips. Completing the array were bags of white flour, a full liter of fresh, creamy milk, a tray of brown farm eggs with their speckled shells, a substantial block of pure white cheese, a generous knob of golden butter, a dish filled with neatly cubed mutton, a bottle of crisp white wine, a bottle of fragrant olive oil, a small container of mixed dried herbs, a salt cellar, a pepper grinder, a container of cornstarch, and a vibrant sprig of fresh parsley. With a clear sense of direction, Elodie began the initial steps of preparing the soup, the first element of her planned feast. The immediate task was to thoroughly cleanse the leeks and potatoes, ensuring they were free of any lingering traces of the earth from which they had sprung. She selected the 3 long leeks, each one feeling substantial and firm in her hand. Their elongated stalks displayed a beautiful gradient of color, transitioning from the pristine white of their bulbous bases to a rich, deep green at their delicate tips. She held them carefully under the running water, gently wiping away any specks of soil that clung to their surfaces, a tangible connection to the fertile land that sustained her. Next, her attention turned to the potatoes. These were large and uniformly round, their skins a warm, inviting gold. She picked up a small, stiff, bristled brush and meticulously scrubbed each one until its surface gleamed under the water, revealing its inherent earthy beauty. With the vegetables now cleansed, Elodie reached for a sturdy wooden cutting board, its surface bearing the faded marks of countless meals prepared upon it, a silent testament to its long and faithful service. She placed the leeks on the board and selected a sharp, well-maintained knife from her collection. Using a precise and practiced motion, she removed the dark green ends of the leeks, then carefully sliced the remaining portions into quarters lengthwise. As the knife made its way through the crisp flesh, the leeks released a delicate, fresh, and subtly oniony aroma, a tantalizing preview of the flavors to come. Next, she meticulously sliced the quartered leeks into slender, uniform strips. To ensure accuracy, she held them firmly in place with one hand, her fingers gently curved into a protective position. With her other hand, she positioned the tip of the knife on the board, using it as a pivot point to guide the blade along the length of the vegetables, transforming them into a fragrant pile of thin, delicate slices. With the leeks now prepared, Elodie turned her attention to the potatoes, their smooth surfaces awaiting transformation. Then, she reached up to a sturdy hook positioned above the stove and carefully lifted down a large, heavy-bottomed pot, its weight a familiar comfort in her hands. Taking up a small glass jar filled with golden olive oil, she poured in a generous measure, the viscous liquid spreading slowly across the bottom of the pan, its rich, fruity scent immediately filling the air, a promise of the Mediterranean sun. She turned the flame beneath the pot to a medium-high setting and picked up the cutting board, using the flat of her knife to gently slide the chopped leeks into the waiting pan. With a long-handled wooden spoon, worn smooth by years of use, she stirred the leeks, their delicate aroma mingling temptingly with the warm, fragrant olive oil, creating a symphony of savory scents that danced through the kitchen. Once the leeks had softened slightly and their fragrance had intensified, she tipped the prepared potato pieces into the pot, their earthy scent adding another layer to the olfactory tapestry. Finally, she added almost 3 liters of fresh water, carefully measured using a cleaned milk jug, ensuring the vegetables were fully submerged. A generous pinch of coarse sea salt, taken from a small, intricately decorated Moroccan salt dish, completed the initial preparation. With the ingredients now combined, she adjusted the flame to a low simmer, allowing the soup to cook slowly and gently, its flavors gradually melding and deepening over time. With the soup now gently bubbling on the back burner, Elodie turned her focus to the dish of cubed mutton, its rich, red color a testament to its quality. She carefully poured the contents of the dish into a large, oval-shaped ceramic casserole dish, its glazed surface reflecting the warm light of the kitchen. Carrying the casserole over to the sink, she held it under the running faucet, allowing the cool water to flow until it completely covered the pieces of mutton, ensuring they were thoroughly rinsed. After a brief rinse, she returned the casserole dish to the stovetop, placing it over a high flame. Next, she carefully uncorked the bottle of white wine, its cork emitting a soft pop as it was released. She brought the open bottle to her nose, inhaling deeply the tangy sweetness of the wine, appreciating the complex aromas and the depth of flavor it would impart to her cooking, adding a touch of Provençal sophistication to the rustic stew. With a decisive hand, she poured approximately half of the wine into the casserole dish, allowing the liquid to mingle with the mutton. Then she carefully recorked the bottle, preserving the remaining wine for later use or perhaps a well-deserved glass with her meal. Moving on to the next stage of preparation, she took a large colander over to the collection of ingredients laid out on the countertop. She carefully placed the majority of the small onions and turnips into the colander, their firm textures and earthy scents adding to the growing anticipation of the meal. Then, she reached into her sack of small golden potatoes, selecting a generous quantity of those that were approximately the size of pigeon eggs, following the specific instructions detailed in her beloved cookbook. These were added to the colander as well, their smooth skins gleaming under the kitchen light. With the colander now filled with an assortment of root vegetables, she carried it over to the sink and thoroughly washed its contents, removing any remaining traces of soil or debris. With the vegetables cleansed and the mutton simmering in wine, Elodie turned her attention to the oven, adjusting its temperature to a higher setting in anticipation of the roasted cauliflower. On the stovetop, the mutton stew continued to bubble cheerfully, its rich aroma now beginning to permeate the kitchen air, while the leek and potato soup simmered away gently, its comforting scent a familiar presence. She gave each pot a gentle stir with its own dedicated wooden spoon, savoring the clouds of steam that rose upwards, carrying with them the sumptuous sense of the developing meal, a testament to her efforts. Next on her culinary agenda was the preparation of the roasted cauliflower dish. She carefully lifted the head of cauliflower, its creamy white florets tightly packed together, and gave it a quick rinse under the tap, shaking off the excess water droplets from its slightly rough surface. She then laid it on her wooden cutting board and, using a sharp knife, chopped it coarsely into bite-sized pieces, ensuring even cooking. Elodie placed the chopped cauliflower into a separate pot of water and added a couple of generous pinches of salt, a simple seasoning that would enhance its natural flavor. She then left the cauliflower to simmer gently on the stove, while she turned her attention to creating a flavorful sauce to accompany it, a creamy counterpoint to the roasted vegetable. To this end, she finely minced a small onion and a bright orange carrot, their pungent and sweet aromas mingling in the air. She then placed these finely chopped vegetables into a tiny saucepan on the final available burner of her stove, adding a generous pat of golden butter. As the butter melted and began to sizzle gently, she added a light dusting of salt and a small grind of black pepper, followed by a pinch of fragrant mixed dried herbs, their aromatic notes instantly adding another layer of complexity to the savory fragrances now filling her cozy kitchen. The buttery herbs released their tempting scent almost immediately, creating an irresistible olfactory symphony that spoke of comfort and warmth. With the various elements of her meal progressing nicely, Elodie set a hand timer to 30 minutes, allowing herself a brief moment of respite. She sat down at the round table, her gaze drifting towards the window, which was now slightly fogged with the steam emanating from the simmering pots, though she could still discern the glistening water droplets clinging to the outside pane. She listened to the gentle bubbling sounds emanating from the stove, a comforting domestic rhythm, and the mournful howl of the wind outside, a reminder of the warmth she had created within. A gentle smile touched her lips as she contemplated the tasty meal she was preparing, and the quiet joy it would bring to share it with hungry mouths. A simple act of generosity on a cold winter's day. After a few moments of peaceful contemplation, however, Elodie felt a renewed surge of energy and a desire to return to her culinary tasks. Standing up and stretching her arms slightly, she carefully removed the pot of simmering cauliflower from the stove and drained it thoroughly into the colander set in the sink, allowing the excess water to escape. She left the cauliflower to air dry slightly, ensuring it would roast properly, then placed a thick-bottomed frying pan on the stove where the pot had been, relighting the flame beneath it. Dipping a large spoon into the butter dish, she scooped out a generous ball of golden yellow butter, roughly the size of a large egg. She dropped it into the hot frying pan where it began to sizzle gently, its rich, creamy aroma filling the air. To the melted butter, she sprinkled in 2 tablespoons of soft white flour, the fine powder creating a cloud as it landed in the pan. Using a sturdy wooden spoon, she diligently stirred the butter and flour together, creating a smooth, golden roux, the foundation of her sauce. Then, very, very slowly, she began to pour in 3/4 of a liter of rich, creamy milk into the pan, stirring constantly to ensure no lumps formed. As she stirred diligently, the flour and butter mixture gradually absorbed the milk, transforming into a smooth, velvety liquid. Little by little, the mixture thickened, evolving into a rich, white sauce, its consistency becoming more substantial with each passing moment. She continued stirring until the sauce shimmered with a smooth and uniform texture, with not a single lump to be seen, a testament to her careful technique. With the white sauce now perfectly smooth, she turned off the flame beneath the tiny saucepan containing the sautéed buttery onion and carrot, which had cooked down beautifully, their colors intensifying into vibrant shades of yellow, orange, and creamy white, their sweet and savory aromas now fully melded. She carefully passed this flavorful mixture through a fine mesh strainer into the prepared white sauce, ensuring a silky, smooth final product. Then, she whisked the whole mixture together firmly, incorporating the flavors and creating a cohesive sauce. Selecting a medium-sized brown farm egg from the tray, she cracked it gently against the side of a bowl, separating the shell into 2 halves. She carefully poured the contents of the egg back and forth between the 2 half shells, allowing the clear egg white to slowly trickle out into a small dish, leaving behind only the vibrant orange yolk. She then tipped the yolk into the sauce in the frying pan, its rich color adding to the sauce's golden hue. She repeated this process with a second egg, carefully separating the yolk from the white. When the 2 vibrant orange yolks floated on top of the sauce, she gave it another good stir, ensuring they were fully incorporated, and the sauce once again achieved a smooth and uniform consistency. Then, Elodie retrieved a rectangular baking dish from her cupboard and spread a generous scoop of the now golden sauce evenly over its bottom, creating a flavorful base for the cauliflower. She picked up a cheese grater and dragged the block of white cheese across its sharp surface, sending a shower of finely grated cheese into the dish, creating a light and even layer. When the bottom of the rectangular baking dish was lightly coated with the grated cheese, she set the cheese and grater aside, their task temporarily completed. Now, she took handfuls of the slightly cooled, chopped cauliflower and meticulously filled the baking dish, arranging the florets neatly and evenly. After all the pieces of cauliflower were carefully arranged in the dish, she scooped the remaining golden sauce generously over the top, ensuring every floret was coated in the creamy richness. Finally, she grated another fine layer of the white cheese over the entire surface, creating a tempting, cheesy crust. Lastly, she placed a small slice of golden butter into the tiny saucepan that had held the carrot and onion, allowing it to melt in the residual heat. The yellow butter dissolved in seconds in the hot pan, and she then drizzled it evenly across the top of the cheesy cauliflower, adding a final touch of richness and flavor. By this time, the oven was fully preheated, its interior radiating a comforting warmth. She carefully opened the door, and a gentle cloud of warm air greeted her, carrying with it the promise of deliciousness. She picked up the dish of prepared cauliflower and carefully slid it onto the middle rack inside the oven, closing the door gently after it, the heat now working its magic on the dish. A quick stir of the gently simmering leek soup ensured it wasn't sticking to the bottom of the pot. With that task completed, Elodie turned her attention to seasoning the mutton stew, its rich aroma filling the kitchen. First, she skimmed the surface of the stew with her stirring spoon, removing any impurities that had risen to the top. She then rinsed the spoon under the sink faucet, ready for its next task. Next, she added a large pinch of coarse sea salt to the stew, enhancing its savory flavors. She picked up her pepper grinder and gave it a few generous turns, sending a cascade of freshly ground pepper into the pot, its pungent aroma adding another layer of complexity. Then, she dropped in several spoonfuls of the aromatic mixed dried herbs, their fragrant notes mingling with the rich scent of the mutton and wine. Finally, she picked up the dish containing the prepared onions, turnips, and small potatoes that she had washed earlier, and tipped the entire contents into the boiling water of the mutton stew. Together, these root vegetables would transform the dish into an old-fashioned, hearty mutton and vegetable stew, cooked slowly until their individual flavors melded exquisitely, creating a comforting and satisfying meal. And now, it was time to exercise patience. The majority of her culinary work was complete. A gentle stir of each pot every now and then was all that would be needed as the various courses she had so carefully prepared continued to cook, their aromas filling the kitchen with an irresistible symphony of savory scents. So, Elodie settled back into the chair at her little round table and allowed herself the simple pleasure of paging aimlessly through her well-worn cookbook, its pages filled with culinary wisdom passed down through generations. It contained all the treasured specialties of Provence, recipes that spoke of the region's rich history and its deep connection to the land and sea. A thick yellowed section detailed dozens of kinds of fish found in the nearby waters of the Mediterranean Sea, offering insights into their unique characteristics and the best ways to prepare them. It provided specific information about the various vegetables and fruits that flourished in this sun-drenched land, noting when they ripened, how to select them at their peak of flavor, and the most delicious methods of preparation. It shared the secrets of making tasty and hearty meals from everything the land and sea had to offer, including detailed instructions on how to cook shellfish, pigeon, rabbit, and all the many other delicacies offered up by the region's diverse bounty. It offered invaluable tips for seasoning and simmering, a treasure trove of recipes both savory and sweet, and helpful suggestions for everything from navigating the local markets to planning elaborate menus for festive occasions. It was a culinary treasury filled with timeless dishes made with simple and nourishing ingredients. Fresh eggs, earthy potatoes, creamy milk, and an abundance of produce culled straight from the local farms and the sun-drenched air. As Elodie flipped through the pages, her mind drifted away into a world of pleasant daydreams, filled with the comforting aromas and tastes of past meals and the anticipation of the one she was about to enjoy. Before she knew it, the time had slipped past unnoticed, and the meal was nearly finished cooking, the tantalizing aromas emanating from the stove and oven, a clear indication of its readiness. It was almost time to savor the fruits of her labor, but first she would attend to the final finishing touches, those small but crucial steps that would elevate the meal to its full potential. To begin, she carefully peeked into the oven at the dish of cheesy cauliflower, its top now toasted to a beautiful golden brown, the melted cheese bubbling invitingly around the tender florets. Satisfied with its appearance, she turned off the oven, allowing the casserole to remain inside, the residual heat keeping it warm until it was time to serve. Next, she turned off the burner beneath the pot of leek and potato soup, giving it one last good stir to ensure all the flavors were evenly distributed. Then, she placed the lid tightly on the pot, sealing in the warmth and aroma. After that, she whisked together a tablespoon of cornstarch with a small amount of cold water in a separate bowl, creating a smooth slurry. This she then stirred into the pot of mutton stew, whose contents had been slowly reducing, concentrating its flavors into a fragrant and hearty concoction. The cornstarch quickly worked its magic, thickening the stew to a rich and satisfying consistency. Finally, she took the sprig of fresh parsley and carefully chopped its vibrant green leaves into small, delicate pieces. She then sprinkled the freshly chopped parsley generously over the top of the steaming mutton stew, adding a final touch of color and freshness. With that, she removed the pot from the heat and placed its lid on tightly, ensuring it would remain hot throughout the soup course of her meal. And now, at last, the savory winter feast was complete, lovingly prepared with care and attention to every detail. Elodie reflected that half the enjoyment of the meal was already hers, found in the quiet pleasure of working in her kitchen, the rhythmic chopping of vegetables, the gentle simmering of pots, and the satisfying sense of accomplishment that came with a job well done. The other half of the enjoyment still awaited her. Nestled within the ceramic casserole dish, the heavy soup pots, and the rich tastes of the age-old recipes, the comforting flavors of tradition, and the gratifying experience of savoring good ingredients cooked with love and shared with generosity. Soon, she would carefully carry this hot, nourishing meal the short distance to the local soup kitchen, located just half a block away. There, together with neighbors in need and other volunteer cooks, she would sit down to a warming meal, and even more warming company, sharing not only food, but also stories and companionship on this cold winter's evening. A feeling of quiet satisfaction settled over her, a sense of peace and gentle eagerness for the moments to come, the simple joy of community and connection. She slipped on a thick, warm coat, its familiar weight a comforting presence. Then, carefully picking up the first hot dish, its warmth radiating through her mittens, she stepped out from the humble warmth of her cozy kitchen into the blustery dusk of the midwinter evening, ready to share the fruits of her labor and the warmth of her heart with those who needed it most.